Hello guys, welcome back. This is Pete Dahlgren and we're building the Mears Models F86. And I want to talk about the tail of this airplane a little bit because I've posted this quite a bit in Facebook and I've got a lot of feedback about this because so many people are used to so many of the main models of F86 that they are kind of overlooking. The fact is that the very first videos that I've seen about the F86s involved an A model, the 1A, the PF38, and all that, or 86, I'm sorry. But anyway, the main thing about it was is that the first models, the elevator did not turn. It did not rotate up and down as the rest, like this. Now, Damiano actually designed this airplane. He designed it to resemble the F-86 in a sport version. And it was to make it more affordable and all that. But as you see, we're killing it here. I'm doing crap loads of rivets. I'm just slowly getting there. And this is a very long process to get them to actually look right, but that's not what this video is about. Now, if you go to f86drawings.com, it'll pull up 3 or 4 different versions of this airplane, and it's going to be up to you to decide on how much you're going to do this. And I know they're printing the noses for these and everything else like that now, and that would not work for this because of the fact is the tail had to be made convincing to do this, because I knew I was going to do all these details and things like that. And one of the biggest things I want to explain to everybody is that I did actually go, and I did cover this about aligning fuselages and truing up certain parts and things like that. And what I want to do, let me get this out of the way. And what I want to tell you guys is that when you go and actually build your airplane, it's pretty important to what you would want to do. So I'm going to explain what the difference on the A and the F models are, and even the H model, because they're all together a complete different airplane when they get past the F model. I mean, they're big. These airplanes got monstrous. The Canadian version that was used in Australia and in Canada was also a completely different airplane, and it was noticeable in nose, especially on the H model. It was like a lot wider. It actually was rounded. I mean, just more blunt. It wasn't sharp like the A model was, like this one is. And in order to do that, I actually sanded it back and raised this up 3/8 of an inch to get the canopy to look right. And if you do look at it, you'll notice that it has it kind of does turn on. Well, the A model did not do that. Okay, so the A model canopy was slightly different as well. So what I did here is I raised this up I raised the whole deck height on this. I raised it 3/16 of an inch in this area. I used the actual framework that was on the original deal that you should be looking if you're building your canopy frame in the hatch area. The main thing about it is that it's very low on the sport jet version, and it wasn't really quite tall enough. So what I did is, when I did the sliding canopy, what I did is I incorporated part of the wood framing that was actually underneath it and actually raised it up. This whole area, and this was that way to get it. Now this is just sitting on here, but and it does actually clip on the inside, but when it gets it in, it's a real nightmare to get out. You'll notice that this whole thing has to kind of flow to get all the way down. And In order to do that, it required that I raise this up for a full 3/8 of an inch up here in order to get this to sit, because the A actually has a dip right here. And if you look on an A model, this whole area had a dip in it because it was so much smaller than and more streamlined than what the F86F was. Now, they look the same on the side profile, and I want to show you guys that by looking at the back of it. Now, the profile had a noticeably larger dip and a bigger mouth in it, like right in here. And there was a gun camera right in the nose of it. They all had that, by the way. But the thing was is that the A model had a little bit more sinister, I don't know, the look is kind of crazy on it. When you look through the front of it, you're going to notice that it actually is kind of more triangulated in this area. And when you look at the airplane, it turns right around in here a little bit more, but it gets skinnier and taller right to there. But in order to get the nose kind of where it needed to be, this area here, which was actually kind of a tricky little idea to put in, it was put in there, but that whole outlet opening was completely different than what the F model shows. And the main reason for it is because they found out that they had to actually, they found out that when the airplane hit, it hit the sound barrier, I forget what they call it, but the controls actually locked up. And they had to slow the airplane down tremendously in order to get it so they can control it. So what happened is that in the later models, this area, now I want you to take a look from the back, because the A model, and it's not going to affect this one because this airplane was not designed with the movable stabilizers. When you look in the side here, this airplane's got a line that goes from here and it tracks itself down to there. And then this slowly wrapped itself up. So when you look at it, it still had the flat spot in it, but it didn't, the F model actually raises from right here. It actually gets a hump that goes over, and then the back of it on the F model, this whole area comes all the way out into here. The A model did not do that. So this is correct. And it's these panels here, because the tail comes off, this was one continuous panel here. And then these were the actual doors on it. Now, if you look at the panel line design on an F, it's a whole bunch of differences between the A model and the F. You got to pay attention to those lines because they're totally different. And the placements of the panels that are in there, they're different too. The F didn't have near as many hatches as the A model did. A lot of the gun doors and a lot of other things, they're pretty much the same, but the revamp on that was actually in here. And this particular part and these particular hatches, this was actually a vent because they changed the engine out. And also Canada and Australia, they got a different engine, so they went to different things. Now, the one thing that is kind of interesting is that there was a lot of variants. A lot of variants that come in with the F86. It depends on who had them. Canadair, theirs were different. They had a whole different gun armament. They had one great big cannon in there. They decided, well, shit, if the Russians could do that with the MiG, well, we want that too. So they had a huge cannon in there. Some of them had big, huge side loaders in the sides of them as well. There was a great big door on some of these that was on the side. And the larger engines on the Canadair had another additional air scoop back here. This is a vent door, it's simulated, but it does actually, it's there. And that was to get the cold air into it when they started it up and stuff like that. So I've watched the documentaries on the F-86s, and I was very intrigued by the F-86, and especially the A model, because, well, the reason for me to do it was for the fact is I was not going to modify this tail part, because this jet is so big that you got to be able to take it apart to get it in and out of a flying field, and putting it in a car or in the back of a truck is not going to happen. This thing's longer than the bed of any truck that we've got around here. And if you wanted to go buy a motorhome or a toy hauler or whatever to haul the jet, that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So this airplane does come apart in 7 pieces, but at the same time, I didn't want a typical F-86. I love the airplane, it's beautiful, but I wanted it different. And so I built the A model. Even though it was not that great of an airplane, this one will fly just fine and it'll be great. But the thing is that I wanted to be completely different. I could have easily gone, and to do that, I'm going to show you where, I'm going to show you kind of where, with some blue tape here, I'm going to show you exactly where that would actually change. Let me get this damn motorcycle helmet out of the way. And I'm going to show you guys a little bit about what it would entail.
Down on the Bombay, I don't know if they get ready to jump or not, and he says, "You look like that." I assumed he said to go. Well, I couldn't go. My chute was back in the tail, so I crawled back.
So
I was crawling back in.
I got everything in the way. Of course, you guys know I just wing this stuff anyway. Now, when you come back and you look, the differences in here for the A and the F would be about, believe it or not, the difference in height on that would be, because this doesn't do that, the difference in height would be
away from the aircraft, but was captured. For him, the war was over.
About that much, actually. The difference would be that much down here, and this would actually come back into here. And then I'm going to do this line on here so you can actually see it. Because if you do build this airplane before, this is the line you're going to want to follow. And just so you do get kind of an idea on that, this is where you're going to want to sheet it, and I'm just going to kind of fold this over because I already kind of figured this out a little bit.
But the crews of the B-17s had little time for
it's going to go about that high, but this would be, this would be your difference.
I'm just saying, that's why we,
in all actuality,
was our war.
about where that would actually be. If you do the F model, and you want to do that, you would want to actually put in and kind of follow this line over the top. And this line here would give you, this line down to the bottom would give you that coke ball thing, but you're gonna come right above in front of this area right in here. You would want to come back and actually put this round because it is pronounced. And this area would actually be a lot taller, but you would want to follow that line down there, and then this piece, if you can, it didn't stick very well, but anyway, this piece would come up, and then this would actually go over the top, and that would give you that F, and then it goes all the way back, and you can run it wild down there. It means you got to cut the back down a little bit to get that to kind of blend, but it would be a very tall piece that would go up here and all the way over. So literally, see if I can find a ruler. literally, this would be your full 1 inch that you would be going, but you would be shooting this line about like this and all the way to the back, and it would actually curve out. So what I'm telling you, to do the F model of this F86, if you don't do the A like I'm doing, which I'm assuming a lot of you are not, and some of you have probably figured this out, this line that you're looking at down here will be, that line right there is pretty important that you follow that all the way to, not just to there, but you'd want to follow it all the way to the back here, because this whole area in here is going to come back with one piece that comes all the way from, you would actually literally be sheeting it in a circular pattern, and that piece would come all the way over and all the way to the back. Now, it's just one of those deals where this is a model that you just don't see, and I did do it, and I did sand it out a little bit to get it to look this way. Even though most of yours, if you're building the mirrors, it's going to look like this regardless of what you do. But that's how you would actually change that tail. And I would strongly suggest that you get a model, before you get too overly carried away with it, get a model that you can actually go and get your references off of it, because this could actually be done. You can put the channels in it and make it look good, and it would look good that way. But you're going to be widening this thing out quite a bit, and you would widen it all the way out to here actually. So there are quite a few little variances on there, so make sure that you have a plan of attack when you do it, because this was absolutely no accident. And I posted some drawings on Facebook a little bit, because some people kind of took and sneered at this thing a little bit, and I assured them that it was not wrong. I showed them the drawings that I am using, and they're actual drawings, and you can download them for free, and they'll also give you all these riveting details and everything else that you're looking at here. And these are treatiforms, so this is the way they look. It's a lot of work, and I've gone through a couple sheets of these things already just on one side, but I'm getting there. And I'm doing a lot of things that I know from building real airplanes that these things would have, so there's a lot of extra rivets and little things like that in there. So that's about it for today, guys. And I just, I want to reiterate, it doesn't matter anyway, regardless of what you're building, because of the fact is, it's your airplane. You build it the way you want to, you build it with the tools you want to, and then you show off your rendition when it's done. And a lot of people may sneer at this and tell you that's not right. It is right. So it's absolutely 100% right. And when you put it next to the actual drawing and put it onto this, the only thing I did a little bit differently is I added this, I have not finished this part for this. So, and I still got a lot of work to do on the aluminum and everything else. But be that as it may, you will get people that are going to shoot down what you're doing. And don't ever let that ever discourage you, especially if you're in the right. So, good luck, guys, and I'll see you in the funny papers.